Okay, hello, it is Suzanne, and I am doing my recording for our second video discussion question about assessment. And what I really want to say, I've been thinking a lot about it over the last couple of days. What I would like to say about assessment is I have mixed feelings about it. I think there are positives and I think that there are negatives. So I'm just going to run through my thoughts, and I'll start with the positives because you always want to start with the positive. The positives that I think about assessments is I think it does help provide real data for teachers and educators regarding a student's academic performance in reading, writing, and math. I think obviously it's very important to have that information. And I think of it more in terms of kindergarten because I'm a kindergarten parapro. I really think that it helps with that initial screening before they even get to school, the kids even get into school. They've been screened in reading, writing, math skills, and it's important, I think it's very important, imperative that we know that information so that we can then place the children on their different levels. And I hate to, say low, medium, high in terms of academic performance, but that is a reality. And as a kindergarten teacher or parapro, you do need to know, there are children that come into school that are able to read. There are children that come into school, on the other hand, that don't even know their letters. You have to catch everybody up, fingers crossed, hopefully by the end of the year, or at least get them performing in some capacity so that they can be successful in first grade. And knowing that information is basically it comes from the assessments. So I think that assessments are very important in that way. I think also that it helps educators know where to start, where are our students, and then where do they need to go. It goes back to those pre-screenings. The high kids, they're going to have to be challenged. How are you going to challenge them? And assessments are the way that you know that information. I think also that it is very good that children are assessed throughout the year so that you can see their progress. Some students that perform at a high level at the beginning of the school year may, get challenged, and they may need to get bumped down a little bit and maybe not be on such an accelerated level. I think assessment is it's a great tool to meet the students as they are and then figure out where they need to go. Let's see. I think also that it is key that as the assessors, the teachers and the staff that are working with the children, I think maintaining a fair amount of flexibility and understanding that, every kid's different. They're going to perform at different levels, like I was saying before. And maintaining that level of flexibility of, learning is fluid. Kids are going to need to be moved around from maybe a high learner. A kid at a high level needs to be bumped back, to the mid-level in terms of reading or math. Maybe one of the low kids just completely takes off and it gets moved up. So I think maintaining that mentality best serves our students because the end goal is to have them feel good about being in school and feel successful. And the way that you know that is through assessments. Now, the negative part of assessment is, I think, obviously a pen and paper test, figuratively doesn't show you about the whole child. And in that, I mean, a child may test quote unquote on a low level for reading or math, but maybe a very talented musician or artist. I don't know that pigeonholing a student into the low group is maybe the right thing for that kid. It doesn't account for, assessment doesn't always account for multiple and varied talents and intelligence. I think that it also doesn't show personality traits. I don't know that that's necessarily fair. You may have a kid that tests low but is the hardest worker and, is so sweet and compassionate. I think that's part of being intelligent too. Emotional intelligence, I think that's part of it. So in that way, I don't always think that assessments are super fair. I think that they provide a good framework for teachers that kind of push us in the direction of this is what this child needs. And it's our job as teachers to tailor our instruction and our activities according to every child in our classroom. And that's what I think. In terms of my own personal experience with assessment, I think I've been okay over the years. I was thinking back, like grade school, middle school, high school. I think I'm okay. Actually, I'm probably really, really, really good. I'm a good test taker in terms of writing and reading. But in math, probably not so much. And I think that may be another issue that I personally have experienced as well going through school is test anxiety. And I think that, you do need to, in some ways, take that into account for certain students. Some kids, are just really good test takers, and good for them. I am so glad for those students. Like I said, just in summation, I just think it's a really, really, really good barometer if you want to measure, assessing is, if you want to measure reading, writing, math, and use that as your starting point to go forward. But I think as teachers, you really have to take that into consideration, their assessment for reading, writing, math, but also their personalities. Their personalities are so varied. Their learning styles are so varied. And I just think that the assessment part of education is a good tool and it's a good supplement. But, part of what we need to do is learn about our students and find the best way to serve them in a whole child, real world setting so that they can be productive citizens. I appreciate y'all listening. Thanks so much. Have a good night.